I'd like to make a wager, and that is that most people, when thinking about headphones, the things that come to their mind will be music, maybe podcasts, maybe a brand. I bet that you or most people don't think about a pacifier, a dummy, a binky, the thing that babies suck on.
I'm a pacifist. You're a thing that babies suck on.
No, dude, that's a pedophile. Tucker, I think he means a pacifier.
And yet, more and more recently, and especially while I'm in public and I see someone wearing headphones, a pacifier is the very first thing that comes to my mind. Well, okay, so why? Well, it's very simple. A baby cries and you give him his pacifier, which is to say, you are telling the baby to shut up and stop infringing upon your personal world. You're saying, I don't want to hear you right now. Well, okay, now you're walking around wearing your headphones, and what does that say? You're saying, shut up, I don't want to hear from you. I want to be in my own world right now. So, okay, the point's a little bit different, but the end result seems extraordinarily similar. And I'm not talking about you wearing headphones while behind a desk or something, and I'm not talking about headsets either. The fact that that has a microphone has a whole different set of meanings behind it. I'm talking about when you walk down the streets or through your university or hell, even standing on the train. Those headphones are basically a neon sign telling everyone not to disturb you. And I mean, fair enough. Trains can be annoying enough as it is. I mean, that's why I sit there and read my book. But I don't read my book while walking down the street, and maybe that's because I need my eyes to be wandering and seeing where I'm standing, and maybe it's the mental load of reading, or maybe it's some mixture of the two. But it's not common, and that is the fundamental point here. But with headphones, it's practically becoming more and more normal. I think about this. The fact that two people can be shoulder to shoulder, and yet they don't have the same reality. Not by a long shot. We've always had differences in how we interpret the world, and what we choose to pay attention to, and what we deem to be irrelevant. But here, it's the fact that we're not even sharing the same auditory stimulation. Like, you're right next to each other, and yet you're having completely different inputs from the world. And I mean, that's cool, to be sure, but it's also quite terrifying. So we can't hear the same world. Well, then when do we stop seeing the same world? And then when do we have so many things personalizing the sensory experience of the individual that even being in the same square meter isn't enough for you to interpret things in even a remotely compatible way? You know, it's almost like Dark Souls in a way. And no, not in the way that everything's out to kill you, which, I mean, in a way it is, but that's not really relevant to this. And it's not in the way of, you know, just a dark fantasy medieval world, but in the way that every individual lives in a slightly different version of the world. So in Dark Souls 3, it's why you have to kill Aldrich in your own world, but he's still alive in the world of Unri. And then when you have to be summoned into Unri's world and fight Aldrich again, because he's still alive in that world. And that is what is so terrifying. When you say that we're looking at a Dark Souls existence, that is no joke. Well, okay, so maybe we're on some path that may lead us down to fractured realities to each individual person. Sure, okay, well, yes, that is down the line, at least in part. But even right now, as you walk around with your neon do not disturb signs, you are actively in the process of deterring human contact and interactions. And as far as I can tell, for a social species like ourselves, that is nothing good. And maybe you're thinking it's good for introverts who have a harder time interacting with others, but it's the direct opposite. It's comforting, maybe, but at some point you need to ask someone something, talk to someone, and now the difficulty is 10 times worse. You're no longer just asking someone to listen to you, you're asking them to stop what they're doing, remove their headphones, and then listen to you. And then maybe you need an answer. Maybe you need directions. And God help the introvert or the socially awkward person who wants to ask someone out. You know, he is just screwed as far as I can tell. Because people are going out of their way while in public and surrounded by other people to make themselves, well, not surrounded by other people. They're making themselves the baby who the adults have had enough of and just want to shut up. Something to be looked at but not interacted with. And you know, At that point, you may as well just be a picture on the wall for the damn good you're doing. And maybe that's all you want to be. So great. But then what happens when you're the only one who needs someone and all you have around you are pictures on the wall? You know that is not good, as far as I can tell, and it's like we're trying to breed a new sort of social evolution, and we're trying to do it incredibly rapidly, where introversion is going to become a catastrophic trait, and the only way to meet people is going to be online. It's the type of thing dating apps will froth over as they become the only viable way for people to meet. It's going to be like Wall-E, where people start floating around in their own world and the only interaction they have with each other is through a screen, if even that. And we become more and more diluted as a species. So yeah, I see people wearing headphones in public and that makes me think we're inventing ourselves to death, which is probably far too existential of a reaction to a tangle of plastic and wire around someone's head, but hell, that's me. And it fucking scares me sometimes.